So this is also from section 1.1 of functions and change. This is question 33. And so here we're asked to read a graph, okay, and interpret what's going on in the graph. So we've got n is equal to f of t. So this means our output is equal to n, which is nicotine in the bloodstream, and we're measuring that in milligrams. Okay, so again, paying attention to the units, really important. And then the input here is the variable t, which we want to be clear, we get the units here is going to be hours since finished smoking. And just kind of taking an overall look at this graph over here, right? We could just make a general comment that as the time since you've smoked goes on, the amount of nicotine in your body goes down. That makes sense. Your body is metabolizing the nicotine as time goes on. These questions are asking us to comment on more specific features of this graph. So if we want to estimate f of 3, right, again, being mindful of what inputs and outputs are really important. So the 3 here is inside of the function, so it's the input. So that's over here. So what I would like to know, f of 3, write it up here, would be the output when t is equal to 3. So I come up to the graph, look at the point on the graph when the input value t is equal to 3, and then try and approximate what is the corresponding output value. And so from here, I can see the output value n is somewhere between 0.1 and 0.2. So here I could say that f of 3 is approximately 0.15. So we use these squiggly things to do an approximate, but because we're estimating here, it would be totally fine to just say f of 3 is equal to 0.15. And this problem is asking us to interpret it in terms of nicotine. So this would tell me 3 hours after smoking, the nicotine present in the bloodstream is 0.15 milligrams. So this would be my work for question A. First of all, I was able to interpret, to approximate f of 3 from the graph. I got that value was 0.15 by reading off the input is 3, the output is 0.15, and then I'm able to explain what this 3 and the 0.15 mean in the context of this problem. In question B, we're being asked to approximate how many hours have passed before the nicotine has decreased down to 0.1 milligrams. So this is asking us to do the opposite. When the output n is equal to 0.1, let's approximate what the input value is. So over here, we can see that at this point, when the output is 0.1, the corresponding input is about 4. So here we could say f of 4 is equal to 0.1. And this is asking us, well, what does that mean? This is telling us that it would take 4 hours after you smoked would have to elapse for the nicotine level to decrease down to 0.1 milligrams. Parts C and D, we'll get into this on class more on Friday. I don't think you have any homework problems that ask you about vertical intercepts or horizontal intercepts. But since you're here, I got your attention. Vertical intercept, this is going to be the place where the graph crosses the vertical axis. So remember, we've got the vertical axis, and the vertical intercept is going to be, where does the graph intersect the vertical intercept, vertical axis. And this is approximately at the point when the input is 0, the output is about 0.4. So this would tell me when it has been 0 hours since you finished your last cigarette, or whoever finished their last cigarette. So right when a person has finished smoking, the nicotine level in their bloodstream is 0.4 milligrams. And then last and not least, the horizontal intercept. We don't know where that is since we don't see it, but it would be the place on the graph where the graph crosses the horizontal axis. And, maybe that's this point out over here. Let's just say I estimate that to be 8. Then we would say the horizontal intercept occurs at the point 8, 0. So this point over here has a x coordinate of 8, and the y coordinate is 0 since the graph is located right on the axis. But like I said, don't worry about parts C and D. We'll talk about that in class. But certainly what we discussed in parts A and B on this problem, that should be useful for some of the problems on the homework. All right, have a nice evening and day, and I will see you in class on Friday.